So today, we're going to dive into a really powerful, mystical view on making mistakes. And it's this idea that reframes repentance not as just, saying sorry, but as this incredible act of cosmic repair, a way to literally turn our biggest failures into our greatest strengths.
I mean, really think about that for a second. What if your absolute lowest point wasn't something you had to erase, but was something you could actually transform into a source of profound strength? What if that huge mistake could become the very launchpad for your highest ascent?
Now, it sounds pretty radical, I know, but there's this deep mystical tradition that frames this return not as an act of shame, but as a kind of heroic journey. And it's one that can change both you and the spiritual reality all around you. So let's unpack how this whole thing works.
Okay, so to really get this, we've got to start with a really fundamental idea, that the universe is basically a battlefield between two opposing forces. And the deciding factor in that battle, it's you, it's us. Our choices, our actions, they are constantly shaping this cosmic reality.
You see, the sources talk about this duality through these two, well, let's call them archetypes. On one side, you have the person of holiness. Every positive thing they do builds and strengthens the divine connection in the world. And then, on the complete opposite side, you have the person of emptiness, whose negative acts do the exact reverse. They actually fuel this cosmic force of separation and chaos.
And here's the kicker. This cosmic drama isn't playing out in some far-off galaxy. It's happening in our day-to-day lives. Every single thought, every word, every action, it's all fuel. Whether we realize it or not, we are constantly, moment by moment, feeding one side or the other.
So if our actions are the fuel, what's actually happening on a metaphysical level when we mess up? How does a sin literally build up this other side?
Okay, so let's get a key term down. This realm of negativity is called the Sitra Akra, which literally means the other side. And you can think of it as the dimension of anti-connection, of spiritual static, of chaos. It's a reality that literally thrives on separation from the divine source of all life.
So, the way this thinking goes, a negative act is actually a two-part creation. The physical act itself, what you actually do, creates a sort of metaphysical body for negativity, but it's the intent behind the act that actually breathes a life force into that body.
And this is where it gets really fascinating, because it explains the huge difference between an unintentional mistake and an intentional one. An unintentional sin, that's like building a golem but not animating it. Sure, a spiritual body of negativity gets formed, which isn't great, but it's lifeless. But an intentional sin, one that you do with full knowledge and desire, well, that creates the same body and then breathes life into it, creating an active, animated force of spiritual negativity in the world.
Okay, so we've built this negative reality. The structure's there, it might even be alive and kicking. So, how do we tear it down? What is the absolute first, most essential step on the path back?
The answer is something called Teshuva, which literally means return. And you've really got to get this part. The core of it isn't about fasting or other external acts. The absolute bedrock, the foundation, is a sincere internal decision. It's a complete and total resolution in your heart to abandon that negative path and to never go back to it. It's turning back towards the divine with every fiber of your being.
Now, once you've made that core decision, this is where it gets incredibly detailed. It's like there's a blueprint for repair, a systematic guide. The process of atonement isn't one size fits all. It's totally tailored to the specific kind of spiritual damage that was done.
So check out this blueprint. If you neglect a do command, something you were supposed to do, all you need is that sincere repentance for immediate forgiveness. But if you violate a don't do command, that creates a deeper stain. Repentance kind of suspends the consequence, but you need the Day of Atonement for the full fix. And then, for the really heavy stuff, the most severe acts, a third step is needed, suffering, which acts as a final, powerful spiritual cleansing to completely remove what was created.
Okay, so up to now we've been talking about repair, but this is where the whole idea just levels up. It gets really, really profound. The sources talk about two different levels of return. The first is about cleansing, sure, but the second is about outright transformation.
So the first level is called Teshuva ta'ah, or lower repentance. Think of it like spiritual cleanup. This is that essential work of repair we just talked about. The goal is to basically suck the life force you gave to the other side back out of it, and then, through cleansing, dissolve the negative body you created. You're making things right, wiping the slate clean. But then you have Teshuva yila'ah,
higher repentance. And this is not just cleanup. This is straight-up spiritual alchemy. This is what happens when you return with such a profound, soul-deep passion, often driven by this immense love for the divine, that you don't just erase the negative energy of the sin, you transform it. The very energy that fueled the mistake gets flipped, transmuted, and elevated into a force for holiness. Intentional sins become actual merits. It's incredible. And this all leads to one of the most mind-blowing ideas in this whole system, summed up in this classic saying, "Where repentance stand, even the completely righteous cannot." But why? Why would that be? Because the person who has never stumbled hasn't had the chance to perform this incredible spiritual transformation. The one who fell and then returned with such force that they converted darkness itself into pure light has accessed a level of connection and a dynamic power that is completely unique to them.
So, what if you're listening to this and thinking, yeah, but I've messed up too badly. The damage is too great. Well, the core message of these texts is one of just radical, boundless hope. The power of return is, in a word, unstoppable.
So how many obstacles can actually stand in the way of a sincere desire to return? According to these sources, a big fat zero. Nothing. Nada. There is no spiritual gate that is ever permanently locked. The path of Teshuva is always open. And listen, this applies even in the absolute worst-case scenarios. For people who feel completely and totally lost, there's still a path that bypasses all the intellect and all the reason. It's that simple, primal cry from the very core of your soul to reconnect, a direct appeal to the source that is never, ever out of reach.
So, that brings us right back to where we started, doesn't it? If the very energy of our worst mistakes can be transformed into the fuel for our greatest spiritual achievements, if our lowest points actually contain the hidden seeds of our highest ascent, then how should that change the way we look at failure, not just spiritually, but in every single part of our lives? It's a powerful idea to sit with. Thanks for joining me for this one.